Remember to turn on all notifications so you don't miss a video. I used to despise Blue Lock, but after reading ahead in the manga, I've realized the error in my ways. I owe all Blue Lock fans an apology, and this video essay will be my olive branch. This manga is the best sports manga I've read. Blue Lock has an interesting power system that really takes place in the second phase of Blue Lock, and the way it's used is excellent. I'll call this system Formula. The formula is weapon times context equals goal. Context is also called domain or zone. In the first phase, most characters already know their weapon, but they have to develop a context to complete their formula. Isagi learns what his formula is, but the cool thing is that before he actually explicitly verbalized it, he already unconsciously used it to score a goal before. Some characters can score goals without their formula completed by just using their weapon. Here are some examples of complete formulas. Barou's weapon is a curled shot to the top right corner, and his domain is about 27 meters out in the center. Isagi's weapon is his direct shot or volley, and his context is spatial awareness. Here are some examples of just weapons. Bachira's weapon is his dribbling, kunigami's is his finesse shot, chigiri's is his speed, and nagi's is his perfect trap. Characters can, for the most part, only score when they use their weapons and their context, if they have one. Before moving on to the second phase, the characters are given unique training to refine their weapons. The depth of this formula system keeps going further. After the first trio loses and Bachira is taken away, Isagi and Nagi realize that their weapons rely on someone else passing to them, while Bachira's didn't. They realize that they have to come up with their own formulas that allow them to win 1v1s, so they don't have to rely on Bachira or Reo. This is basically another requirement. In chapter 51, during a do-or-die match, Nagi develops a new formula that allows him to win 1v1s, which is his trap times an enemy behind him. Instead of having to face his opponent, he uses a fancy first touch while his opponent is behind him to get past them. Then, in chapter 52, the system is developed more. Moving skill and shooting skill are added. Isagi has a shooting skill, but no moving skill to get into a position to score. Naruhaya has a moving skill, but no shooting skill to score. So in order to clutch the game, Isagi steals Naruhaya's movement skill, which is his off-ball movement, and combines it with a direct shot, creating a second formula. There's also the concept of chemical reactions, which is when two players working together create a new formula or skill. The first time was when Bachira and Nagi worked together in 47. Bachira's pass with a message, and Nagi's touch allowed them to score a goal. Then in 66, Barou is forced to awaken due to Isagi's domination, and he creates the formula charge times chop dribble. That becomes the new rule of the 4v4s. You need chemical reactions along with everything else to win. There are also smaller power systems or sets of rules that need to be overcome in unique ways. For example, during the 4v4 match in chapter 76, Isagi and Rin's spatial awareness was equal, but Rin had better physique, speed, and jumping, so Nagi had to work with Isagi to level the playing field. In 77, Isagi explicitly states that due to the stat difference, he has to face Rin in a situation where they have the edge in parameters. During the match, they also introduce a weakness for Rin, which is that he responds poorly to players that he can't read. Barou is the first example, and Isagi has to become a player that can't be read by Rin. He does this by feinting his direct shot and using a back heel to score. This is some battle manga stuff right here. Not only does it have characters having mid-battle power-ups, but it has a strict power system that also has a lot of foreshadowing and depth. At first, all that was needed was a weapon and maybe a context, but the second phase added the rule that you need to be able to win 1v1s. Isagi and Nagi not being able to do this properly was established before it was even brought up, just like Isagi's first formula was established before he realized it, and then characters are able to mix and match weapons and context to create new formulas. The different journeys that the characters are put on is also fascinating. The story has its formula of combining the setting and the characters to result in an interesting story. The setting is that after forming a team of 3, whenever you win against an opponent, you take one player from the other team and move up to the next round. The setting starts with Isagi's inferiority journey, when Bachira is taken away from him. He and Nagi both learn that they rely too much on passes from their respective teammates. Isagi's inferiority increases when Nagi masters 1v1s, and Naruhaya tells him that they're mediocre compared to Nagi and Barou. Isagi is able to get out of this rut when he makes his own 1v1 formula. Meanwhile, Bachira didn't want to leave the team, but he inspires the duo to win him back. Because Isagi, Bachira, and Nagi teamed up rather than waiting for their former teammates, Kunigami, Chigiri, and Reo want revenge against them for leaving them behind. Even when Chigiri is chosen by Isagi, he still wants to beat him. During the 3v3, Isagi starts dominating Barou by using him as a decoy, scoring with Nagi, and forcing the prideful Barou to pass. Barou is momentarily broken, but then he goes back to normal after scoring with his second formula. And then when the crew moves to the 4v4s, they have a chance at revenge and getting Bachira back. During the 4v4s, when Isagi starts to match Rin, Bachira begins to feel insecure because he's being outclassed. He has to rediscover his ego. This is further pushed when Nagi says that he and Isagi will take Rin if they win, not him. He realizes that he doesn't need to play with a monster and that he's relied on other players too much and decides to play alone. After all this, Isagi's team loses and he's forced to join Rin. That's intense. I'll stop here because I believe this is where the first season will end. The manga is easily the way to go. Its art is too good and the anime's presentation is too mediocre. The kinetic energy is tangible, and the clarity of movement along with the perfect camera angles creates an enjoyable experience. The manga makes good use of after images to show several seconds of movement in one panel. Other times, it separates the movement into multiple panels of the keyframes of animation. Nearly all of the goals look epic, and the techniques are cool too. Nagi's first touches, Barou's curved shots, and Kunigami's knuckleball are all great examples, but my favorite so far is bachira freestyling in the box while surrounded by 3 defenders in chapter 84. Each chapter has at least one page that is poster worthy. Hold up, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished? If you've made it this far, prepare to have your expectations subverted. The title and intro are clickbait. I actually don't disagree with anything I've said in the past about Blue Lock. I don't apologize for anything, and Blue Lock is not the best sports manga. If you want to know my thoughts, go watch my older videos. So why the change in attitude? Here's a quote from part 2 of my critique. When the manga isn't focusing on its cancerous ideology and simply allows the sport to be played alongside great art, it's enjoyable. And here's a quote from Blue Lock's glaring problem. What's tragic is that this domain, weapon formula, and awakening stuff would make for a cool power system, but it just doesn't work in soccer. There's no place for absolute rules like these in a sport. When you put these quotes together like a formula, you'll see that my issues were the ideology, the way they changed the sport, and the illogical attempt to turn soccer into a battle manga. But what I complimented was the regular playing of the sport and the domain times weapon concept on its own. When watching and reading recently, I did my best to ignore these issues and just focus on the positives. Soccer isn't a hero ball sport, it's a team sport. The characters go against what ego says, but they never bring it up. Soccer can't be simplified to formulas. Players don't usually just have one signature skill or weapon. They're usually average overall, but have some areas that are above or below average. Many players often share skills, like being fast or strong. Soccer isn't always that flashy, and doesn't need to be in order to be cool. Soccer doesn't require formulas or chemical reactions for players to be successful. Formations and positioning play a pivotal role in the success of a team. When I'm able to ignore all of this, I can enjoy the story. To be fair, the story makes this a lot easier in the second phase because the ego ideology dies down and characters accept that they have to work together. The story still has the issue of ignoring ego's philosophy. Isagi and Nagi had to work together to win their duos match. When Isagi, Nagi, and Barou became a trio, they and their opposing trio came up with a team plan. During their match, they literally showed that teamwork is a must. Barou wants to go solo dolo, but he keeps losing the ball, so they're losing because Chigiri, Kunigami, and Ryo are working together. But when Isagi and Nagi's teamwork becomes so elite, they start winning. Barou is still able to succeed solo in the end, but most of the goals require teamwork. After losing, Isagi said in 86, quote, "Without these guys, there's no way I would have been able to come this far." End quote. I'm glad they threw the ego stuff away, but they should at least acknowledge that ego was wrong about all the stuff that he said. Although he still pops up to spout some nonsense, I can just skip it. If you actually watched my chapter by chapter critique, you'll see me give Blue Lock its flowers when it deserves it, but you'll also see me dunk on the story when it deserves it. The problem most of the fans in my comments have with me is because they don't want to admit any faults. They don't want to admit that the ideology is mentally retarded and an insult to football. Everything about the story has to be perfect, and because I think otherwise, I'm their enemy and a hater. Oh well. In conclusion, Blue Lock is an enjoyable story if you're capable of turning parts of your brain off. Once I was able to shut out all of the problems of the story, it was smooth sailing. But that doesn't mean that I think the story is better now, because when I'm honestly grading the story, I have to take those flaws into account, and they definitely drop the overall grade. I shouldn't have to turn off parts of my brain to enjoy a story that is well written. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and help me revolutionize the manga industry by buying my manga and spreading the word. All important links will be in the description.